It feels so good to be back. I miss doing this podcast. It's interesting how after, I don't even know how many months we'd been doing it, and our intention was to keep it going, but sometimes stuff happens, and Fashion Month definitely happened. And so I came back here, and the reality was there was no podcast. And I think that it's actually kind of good because it made me, well, first of all, it made me realize I miss it and I appreciate it. And it's become a new pattern for my life, a new habit. And we're all trying to achieve what those new habits can be. So I'm happy to be back. And I feel like I had time when we were apart while Jeff was traveling during the whole Fashion Month. It gave me time. Number one, Tribute is essentially about a month early. Well, maybe 2 or 3 weeks early, earlier than normal. And so it made sense for me to be here. And it was also really good for me to assess. I did a lot of thinking more about the message of what I want the podcast to evolve into. We have some other ideas and plans that we're going to be doing, but right now our focus is 100%, of course, the models and keeping everything afloat at Mother, but also Tribute is just going to be so wonderful this year. I really feel like this, and it's 7 years, and again, you come in with a new project or a new idea, and you definitely, there are growing pains. There was a process that unfolded. We really felt great about how we raised the bar last year, and it was just really special. But this year, in a circus tent, with an amazing new hotel opening right in our neighborhood, and we've been working on this for months in preparation with a lot more original video and content and everything. It's just going to be incredible and wonderful. But in the process, again, we've talked a lot. I've shared a lot about my love-hate with social media. I don't think it's rare. I think most people kind of have that. And one day in my I keep notes in my phone of what I think would be an interesting topic or something to expand on with the podcast. And I wrote these notes one day. I don't know, and I don't even know at this point where I was or what I was doing. But I wrote, I've realized my biggest issue with social media is the effort people attempt to make their lives look interesting instead of actually living a life that's interesting. Two very different things. Don't tell me what you're doing, just do it, and then allow your life to reflect your efforts. As I've said, being in the business for 20 years, and you really look at the totality of something, even though we know that there's so much more to come, you really learn the value, and as you get older, that really the journey and the process is such the most beautiful part of it. And you see yourself growing and you see yourself achieving, and I think it opens you up to what could I do differently, or what can I add to what I'm already doing, or what is it time to eliminate? And part of that evolution is how the podcast came to be and Tribute came to pass. As you scroll through social media, sometimes it literally looks like people spend an exorbitant amount of time thinking about how they're going to make their life look more interesting than it actually is. And that sounds really negative, which I don't want to be negative, but instead of really having it be an internal thing where you find who you were ultimately meant to be. Social media has made some things seem much more easily attainable than they actually are. It can be a business, it can be a relationship, it can be family, it can be a career, it can be filters that make you look perfect, or it can be anything that skews reality. if comparison really is the thief of joy, which I believe that it is, social media can set us up for a losing battle unless we kind of train ourselves to use it as a means to be inspired, but also keep things in perspective, because people get ahead of themselves. When the person you are in social media is not the same as the person that you are in the world, it doesn't work. There's a disconnect. And I feel like what would naturally unfold is kind of a disheartening. Just because you can make something look like there's more to it, really at the end of the day, it's what unfolds in the process of what you're building. The world has changed. For me, girls, it doesn't even have to be girls. It can be women. Well, it doesn't even have to be female. It could be anyone who hanging their identity on social media, getting likes or getting a reaction, is such a dangerous kind of slope. I loved this. This happened a few days ago. Once a topic kind of unfolds, I feel like the world opens up and you find other things that kind of glue what you want to talk about together. And I love watching talk shows. Like, admittedly, I love The View. I love The Talk. I love nighttime talk shows. I love random interviews that you can find anywhere. I love the new Alec Baldwin show. I watched it last night and it was so fantastic. And anyway, side note, Sarah Gilbert, they were having a conversation. I don't even know what the topic was. But what she said was notable enough that I rewound the television and put it in my notes. Anytime you put an external value in your internal worth, you're in trouble from the start. And it's the truth that really it's finding that core part of yourself. And I feel like when you get in that mode and that's what you share with the world in whatever capacity you want to do your social media, then people are going to genuinely be inspired by it and want to make a difference in their own lives. I refer to Stephen Furtick a lot because I just think he's fantastic, and I'm inspired so often by his messages to the world. And he was talking about, as he has grown, and obviously his world is within the church world, but it's like anything else. The same thing applies to business. The same thing applies to anybody who achieves any kind of notable success, that then and back to social media, you end up kind of you can easily be scrutinized. And if you're hanging on that or listening too much, it can put you in a bad spot. We learned this lesson a long time ago when Nightline has done 2 stories about Mother, which were honored that has happened. The first one we were extremely upset about because we felt that it didn't fully represent us and who we are within the industry. And so that's that. We also learned during that there's really no bad press because we thought it was just whatever. But it has since been seen like 5 million times or something crazy. I rarely even pay attention to the fact that it exists. It's just that when we were updating our website, that's when you realize, oh yeah, there's this thing out there floating. And the stuff that people posted and said about Jeff and I is just vicious. It's just horrible. But it was good to be able to have that and just go, whatever, I don't care. I don't need to read it. I don't need to hear it. I don't need affirmation from other people. The affirmation when you're solid in who you are, and my faith is a big part of my life, and I have a good family and good friends, that's all that you really need. And Stephen Furtick was talking about the reality of just being out there and pursuing your dreams, or the reality or lack thereof of what that is. And he talked about reputation without repetition. He was saying how in today's world, somebody through social media can claim to be a public figure or an expert or whatever that is without having to do anything to achieve that point. And we see that with a lot of people in our world who are I'm a mother agent now, or I'm a scout. And look, we all start somewhere. So this is not a criticism, but the way that a reputation that's real and solid, the only way to achieve that is with repetition. And unfortunately, again, in today's world, sometimes people are in such a hurry to go from 0 to 100 that they miss the reality, or they feel like they have to share every step, or they don't become an overnight success, and so they throw in the towel way too soon. And I think that all kind of can hinge back to social media and the way that it's permeated our culture. So my goal, and I think that your goal should be, find what it is that you're really wanting to go after, or find a career that you're wanting to pursue and stick to it. And don't feel the need to blast everything out there every 2 seconds. Slow down. We tell our models to be really discreet with what they share. And we're the same way with the models that we have, because we want the timing to be correct. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Our whole world is trying to be ahead of itself instead of just slowing down, and instead of trying to make your life look interesting, to make it interesting. And sometimes the most interesting thing that you can do with your life is to get to work on the actual work of making you a better person. Instead of getting up and scrolling through social media, or for me, turning the television on right away. Again, I've talked about it before, but it's profound what it's done in my life. Sit down and journal. Pick up a book and really read and contemplate what that is. Listen to music that's inspiring instead of filling your head with a bunch of just distraction. Allow yourself to be still. I think it's just the most important thing. And again, in the remaining part of what Stephen Furtick talked about that I really appreciated, he talked about also relationship. What makes relationship work is repetition. Everything in life really, at the end of the day, is repetition. And getting up, doing the next right thing, not feeling like you have to show it to the world, allowing yourself just that time to be alone and to pursue something that is greater than yourself, that the whole world doesn't have to hear about. I just feel good to be talking to you again. I'm excited about up and coming podcasts. We're going to be sharing a lot over the next 3 weeks as we prepare for tribute. It's going to be really special and lovely. Thank you so much for listening. It's Mother Mary Monday, and I'm back, and I'm not going away anytime soon. Thank you so much, and have a great week.